The first thing you need to do to begin your winter sowing project is to collect your containers. So I have here a couple of examples. So this is like a lettuce or spinach container, some kind of rotisserie chicken packaging, water and milk jugs that have been cleaned out. You can also use soda containers, soda bottles or juice bottles. The most important part is that they're clear or see-through where the sunlight can get in for your seedlings to grow. Once you've gathered your containers, the most important thing is to make drainage holes. On this type of container, you're gonna make drainage holes on the bottom as well as on the top because there's no hole here for the water and snow and condensation to get in. The same with the rotisserie chicken. You drain your holes at the bottom and you'd open up some holes at the top to let rain in as well. With these types of bottles, the milk jugs and the water containers, you would make your drainage holes at the bottom and a couple on the sides, but there's already a big hole on the top that will allow rain and snow in, so you don't have to make additional holes on top. Another thing to consider when you're choosing your container is how much space that the seedlings will have to grow. If we use this lettuce box, for example, you're gonna fill this with a minimum of 3 inches of soil. That only gives you a couple more inches for your seedling to be growing. If you use a container like this one, a milk jug or a water jug, if you have 3 inches of soil, you still have all of this space, a solid 6 inches for your seedling to continue growing. These are my preferred types of bottles, and that's what I would recommend personally. Now that you've gathered your containers, I'm going to show you how to prep them. So you're going to take your container, your milk jug or water container, and I'm using a drill with a 1/4 inch bit. Okay, but you can use that, or I'll show you in a minute, a steak knife. So I'm going to take the drill and I'm going to hold the bottle and I'm going to poke the holes in. Once you've done the bottom, you want to drill a couple of holes on the sides as well. Once you've drilled your holes, now you want to open the container. So you see where the handle is? So these are my favorite types of bottles to work with because for me it's just easier. So I'm going to find the bottom of this handle and I'm going to cut a line all the way across. Use your steak knife to start the hole. And you just use a pair of scissors to cut it around. And you're going to try to keep the line pretty straight. Right before you get to where you started, you stop so that you have a hinge, and that's your first container. And you want to make sure you have enough room to put about 3 inches of soil. If you don't have a drill, you can just use a steak knife. Same concept. Put the tip of the knife in. Just be careful not to hurt yourself, and then kind of shimmy it around like that, and you get a hole. For winter sowing, your soil is going to be your most important part, and so this is where you need to make a good decision regarding what type of soil you want to use. This is what I use, and I've had good luck with it. It's an organic and natural potting mix that has some alfalfa meal, bone meal, earthworm castings, and so forth. It has a lot of natural components to it, which I really like. I've had good success using the soil. It's nice, light, and fluffy, which is very important when you create your containers. A potting soil is preferred to a seed starting mix when you do your containers because a seed starting mix is very light and doesn't have enough nutrients in it to feed the seedlings once they start germinating. So definitely you want to use a all-purpose potting mix and nothing that contains synthetic type fertilizers. Also, you want to make sure that your soil is sterile, meaning it came in a package. You don't want to go out to your garden and start digging up some dirt to fill your containers with, because that dirt can harbor pests and bacteria that won't be healthy for your seedlings. You also need your seeds. So for example, the first type of seeds that I would start are anything that need winter stratification. So here I have some flower seeds, poppies, delphinium, blue globe thistle. All of these need winter or cold stratification. So these would be the first grouping of seeds that I would start to sow in my winter sowing containers. In addition to that, any spring veggies that you want to start. So I have, for example, here some cabbage, some broccoli rabe, some collards, and even some kale. So these are the first grouping of containers that I'm going to prep. The next thing you need is duct tape. So I bought this twin pack from the Home Depot. It's the 3M kind. Gorilla also makes a good quality duct tape. You want to make sure that you get a good quality one because these are going to be outside in the elements. You want to make sure they don't lose their stickiness. If they come undone, your containers won't have a good seal, you won't hold condensation, and you might not get germination. So it'll be tempting to get the Dollar Tree duct tape, but don't do it. I've learned from my mistakes. I've done it before, no good. You want to mark your containers. So what I would recommend, and this is what I do, I take a plant tag, I'll write what the seedling is, I'll stick this plant tag in my container. In addition, when I put my duct tape to seal my container, I'll use one of these. This is called a Sharpie peel-off China marker. I've used these plain old Sharpies before. They don't work as well. They will fade and start washing off in the rain, even though they're supposedly a permanent marker. So in my preference for the winter sowing containers, it's definitely this type of marker, okay? And you don't even have to sharpen them. You just unravel it and you get more tip. So now that you've gathered all of your supplies, I'm just gonna go through an example of one container to kind of show you how I set it up. Depending on what zone you're in, I'm in a zone 6B, so I'm gonna stagger my winter sowing. I'm gonna begin some this first week of February, then I'm gonna start some again in March, and then I'm gonna start my summer stuff in April. So I'm going to stagger my winter sowing over the course of the next 3 months. And so it all just depends on what type of seeds you're sowing. Like in this case, I'm going to sow some flower seeds that need some cold or winter stratification, some delphinium. So that's what I'm going to show you. So here you have your container. You get some pre-moistened potting soil. So I have my watering can here. I've already pre-moistened this. You want to make sure you put enough water in there, not so that it's drenched, but that if you squeeze it, it holds together. So I'm going to fill my container to a depth of at least 3 inches. You can go up to 4 if you want because it will settle with water. And see, this is nice, loose, fluffy soil. Once you get all of your dirt in there, it's already pre-moistened, but you want to add just a little bit more water because these things are not going to get watered again, only by the elements outside. So before you seal up your container, you want to give it a little more water. My soil is in my container. It's to a 3-inch depth. It's pre-moistened. I've added additional water. Now I'm ready to get my seeds in there. So I'm going to sow this delphinium. And here's another tip. Delphinium seeds are super small. So what I would recommend is get yourself a paper towel. Drop your seeds. Get yourself a little bit of water and a Q-tip, not a Q-tip, a toothpick. If you moisten the edge of the toothpick, you can pick up a seed very easily. See? And then you just place it. So you want to space your seeds in here so that the seedlings have enough room to grow. So in this container, I'm going to make myself 16 holes. So 4 rows of 4. And I've made my label. I've just written delphinium and the date, 123. So then you take your tag and stick them in your container. And you close your container and you're ready to tape it up. You just seal up your container. You want to make sure you get your duct tape long enough to go around. If not, it's okay. You can cut another piece. And a bit more. And here we go. So we've sealed our winter sowing container. And the last step I like to take is I also like to label it on the outside, a few spots. what I sowed in there and the date. So here's my first winter sowing container of 2022. I've placed it outside in my veggie garden. You want to put it out in an open area where it's going to be getting rain. Remember, don't cap it back off. You need rain to get in there, snow, and so forth.